Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating: children's emotional well-being, looking at it through the Healing Feelings series. It's 11 books by Reverend Patrice Joy.
That's right. And they feature some lovely illustrations by Kristen Croxton, Nancy Randall, and Tara Lynn. You can find the whole series on Amazon, actually.
And our mission today really is to unpack the core ideas in these books. We want to explore how they might help kids grow emotionally and, what parents can take away from them.
Exactly. How can these concepts translate into practical support for children's development? That's what we're digging into.
Yeah, and what really jumped out at me is just how wide-ranging these books seem to be. It looks like they're used everywhere, families, obviously, but also schools, K through 12, homeschooling.
Special ed settings, mental health pros, scouts, churches, even juvenile rehab and summer camps are mentioned.
It suggests the ideas really connect across a lot of different environments, doesn't it?
It really does. And a big part of that connection seems to be this Sprinklet and Pethlet adventure series. That's part of the wider six-book Healing Feelings series.
Right. It sounds like a really engaging way for kids to kind of get a handle on their inner world.
Yeah, the idea is you can sort of meet these characters, the Sprinklets, in their world,
Mm.
and then learn how to, call on them for help with problems.
Okay, let's really get into that. The sprinklet and pestlet concept. What's the basic philosophy behind it?
Well, the central thought is pretty clear.
Hmm.
Our thoughts and beliefs, they lead to our feelings. Simple enough, right? But the series visualizes this with sprinklets.
Sprinklets, okay.
Yeah, they represent those buoyant, uplifting feelings. They're shown as these six-pointed twinkling stars, and they bring feelings like safety, calm, joy, peace. The energy is described as warm, glowing.
Like helpful, constructive energy. Okay, so what's the flip side? What are the pestlets?
So pestlets are the contrast. They stand for the harmful thoughts and feelings, the ones that come from what the series calls destructive attitudes. And these create a kind of cold, blocked feeling. They actually get in the way of that vibrant sprinklet energy.
Hmm.
And visually, they're cubes.
Stars versus cubes. That's a really clear image for kids, isn't it? Simple but effective.
Definitely. And the sources also talk about the size or power difference.
No. Tell me about that.
Well, it emphasizes that the sprinklet auras, their energy fields, if you like, are much, much bigger and stronger than the pestlet auras.
Really?
Yeah, like the pestlet ones can seem almost tiny in comparison. It's a visual way of saying that constructive energy is fundamentally stronger than destructive energy.
That's a powerful message to give kids. So can you give us some examples? Which feelings are sprinklets and which are pestlets? And the colors.
Sure. For sprinklets, you've got kindness, which is peach, peaceful is blue, joyful yellow, grateful is indigo. Then there's loving and hopeful.
Hopeful, what color is that?
Hopeful is represented by a rainbow. All the
Oh.
colors signifying possibility. And honesty is brown, maybe suggesting being grounded.
Interesting. A rainbow for hope. I like that. Okay, and the pestlets.
On the pestlet side, there's angry, which is red. Raging is like a blazing red. Guilty is a brownish green. Dishonesty is lime green. Perhaps like not being true to yourself.
Maybe. Yeah.
Then there's lonely. Depression is described as pinkish red, which the source links to sort of buried anger.
Interesting connection.
Worry has a big gray aura. Fearful has a big black one. Smug is brownish red. And then sadness and grieving are also listed as pestlets. The colors definitely seem symbolic.
It paints quite a picture of the emotional spectrum. Now, you mentioned something about feeling boxed in if you deny these pestlets. What's that about?
Yeah, the idea is that if you try to just ignore or push down these difficult feelings, these pestlets, instead of acknowledging them.
You get stuck.
Exactly. You can get trapped in these cycles. It limits how you connect with people, how you communicate. You feel kind of confined, boxed in by those unresolved patterns.
And how does that buried pestlet energy block self-understanding or empathy?
Well, if you're not dealing with those challenging emotions, that energy kind of clouds things up inside. It can mess with your self-worth, make it harder to figure out your own motivations or, really understand what someone else is feeling. This series even suggests it can lead to playing dishonest games as a way to cope.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's the framework. And now, how does all this specifically help children? Let's talk benefits. Self-awareness is mentioned first.
Right. The sprinklet characters give kids something concrete. They can learn to recognize them, even imagine drawing them into their hearts, like as a resource when things get tough.
A tangible tool.
Okay.
And emotional regulation. How do the books help with that?
They use these puppet plays. Like there's one called Teddy and Bonnie Learn to Handle the Bullies.
Oh, okay. Like little stories.
Yeah, scenarios that show kids practical ways to deal with tricky situations. And the idea is that sprinklet energy gives courage, helps them stay calm, and makes the pestlets seem less powerful, reinforcing that constructive energy is a stronger idea.
So learning through relatable stories. What about developing inner resources, breathing exercises, imagery?
Yes, exactly. There are specific breathing techniques taught for comfort and feeling protected. And these vision play practices use visualization to help kids connect with their inner knowing, their sprinklet energy within. It's about building motivation and ultimately self-reliance.
So actual techniques they can practice and understanding different emotions. There was a Valentine's Day puppet play mentioned.
That one's great for illustrating the range of feelings. It contrasts pestlets like angry, lonely, grieving, fearful with sprinklets like kindness and loving. Seeing them acted out by puppets helps kids name and understand their own feelings and notice them in others. It builds emotional literacy.
That sounds really accessible. And there's even a game, the Sprinklet Behavior Game.
Yeah, that sounds fun. It's designed to encourage cooperation and focuses on noticing and rewarding individual helpful actions, kindness, sharing good feelings, that sort of thing.
And kids earn Sprinklet stars.
Right. But the rewards are non-material. It's about reinforcing the value of those behaviors themselves, not just getting a prize. It lines up with, behavioral reinforcement ideas.
Focusing on the intrinsic good. Okay. What about imagination and creativity?
Well, the vision play practices definitely tap into imagination. And the puppet plays themselves encourage role-playing, exploring scenarios. The theories even suggest making your own puppets. It's very hands-on.
And building resilience. There was a spring holiday puppet play example.
Precisely. That play shows characters moving from sadness to hope, demonstrating that recovery is possible. And the activities linked to it emphasize choosing happiness, setting intentions, fostering that proactive approach to well-being.
It really seems like a holistic approach for kids' emotional development. Okay, let's switch tracks a bit. What about the parenting tips woven into this? Creating a supportive environment.
Yeah, the Parents' Role chapter talks about consciously setting up a home environment that really supports learning and success.
Yeah.
It implies creating a space that feels safe, nurturing, where kids can thrive. Think authoritative parenting principles.
Makes sense. And this respect method of cooperative discipline, what does that entail?
It seems to be part of a broader strategy involving imaginative training and developing inner directives.
Yeah, inner directives.
Yeah, things like self-reliance, healthy self-image, goal setting, understanding consequences, action-reaction maturity, organization, boundaries. It's about guiding kids toward managing themselves, not just controlling them externally.
A really comprehensive view of guidance. What about teenagers? There's a chapter on the teen's search for self.
Right, that tackles the specific challenges teens face, those tough beliefs, the false realities linked to fear, anger, guilt patterns. It suggests tools like goal setting, mindfulness, imagery, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, understanding, and changing thought patterns. Also, self-hypnosis, vibrational approaches, art therapy. It acknowledges the unique headspace of teenagers.
More advanced tools for complex times. And the power of role modeling for parents.
Huge emphasis on that. Parents are encouraged to be their own friend as well as a parent. Basically, think about what you're actually showing your kids your own happiness, how you lead, how you set boundaries. Kids learn so much just by watching us.
Absolutely. Okay, what about handling emotional distress, understanding stress?
The series validates emotional distress as real stress that impacts learning. And it offers a really interesting constructive idea. Create a designated unhappy place, or pestlet room.
A pestlet room.
Yeah, a private spot where a child can safely express anger or frustration without it being seen as punishment. A place for emotional release.
That's a novel concept. Okay. Transactional analysis is also mentioned for balanced parenting. Briefly, what's the connection there?
So transactional analysis talks about 3 ego states: parent, child, and analyst or adult rules, feelings, and rational thought. Balanced parenting uses the best of each nurturing guidance, playful connection, clear thinking. It fosters validation and safety. Imbalance, the series notes, can lead to less helpful traits.
Finding that sweet spot in our approach. How about building self-confidence?
Key advice here is helping kids separate unwanted behavior from who they are fundamentally. Treat the child as a person, not a problem. Focus on improvement, not comparison to others.
Crucial distinction. And emotional balance.
It points out that chronic, stressful emotions are harmful. So encourage kids to focus on self-support, set boundaries, and understand that idea of the vibrational nature of emotions like attracts, like tying back to the sprinklets and pestlets.
Right, the energy connection. What about communication tips for parents?
Active listening, honesty, integrity, the foundations. But a really practical tip is tell kids what you want them to do, not just what you don't want. Frame it constructively.
Simple but powerful shift. Okay, discipline. What's the approach?
Consistency and love are key. Give warnings, reminders before restrictions, apply consequences calmly and promptly. And again, allow that private space for expressing unhappiness. It's not punishment.
Guidance, not just punishment. How about fostering self-reliance?
Give responsibility in manageable chunks. Let them experience the natural outcomes of their choices. Good choices lead to good results. Less helpful choices, well, less helpful results. Learning by doing, essentially.
Makes sense. And the importance of play and connection.
Absolutely highlighted. Playtime, cuddle time, vital for self-worth, making happy memories. Those moments are fundamental building blocks.
Couldn't agree more. What about negative self-talk, that inner critic?
Parents are encouraged to teach kids how to notice and actively replace those unhelpful thoughts with more uplifting, supportive ones.
You'll love
A kinder internal voice.
a vital life skill. And finally, forgiveness and creative tools.
Forgiveness is presented as a coping skill for everyone, parent and child, to release harmful feelings. And things like art therapy and journaling are suggested as ways to express emotions, especially when words are difficult.
Wow, okay. It really sounds like the Healing Feelings series offers a remarkably thorough and quite insightful way to support kids' emotional lives and gives parents a lot to work with, too.
It really does seem to. If we boil down the key takeaways, the series gives this unique sprinklet and pestlet framework to understand and work with emotions. It provides kids with real tools for awareness, resilience, and self-regulation.
And for parents, you get practical tips rooted in cooperative discipline, emotional intelligence, creating that supportive environment for growth.
Exactly. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Think about this. How could consciously using this kind of language of feelings, these sprinklets and pestlets, really shape a child's path to understanding themselves better? Could it give them tools for a more balanced, maybe even more joyful life?
It's definitely something to consider. We encourage you to check out the Healing Feelings series on Amazon and see how these ideas might fit for the children in your world.